The DA and the ANC are on opposite sides regarding the Electricity Ministry's oversight and accountability model. The DA has been calling for the establishment of an ad hoc committee which would oversee the National Energy Crisis Committee, while the ANC says the Electricity Ministry was a program and there will be no need for it to have a committee as a result. Let's get the IFP's view on this. We're joined by Inkosi, Mzamo, Buthelezi for more. A very good evening to you, sir. Grateful for your time. So, the ANC and DA clearly disagree on whether there's sufficient oversight, especially considering that this is a new ministry that is responding to a crisis in the country. Where does the IFP stand?
Thank you very much, Tembegile, and good evening to your viewers. As the IFP, we are very clear. We support the establishment of this committee for a very simple reason. Transparency and accountability are the core values enshrined on the public administration side of our constitution. You can't have a minister, it doesn't matter where he sits, who won't be accountable, who won't be monitored in terms of how is he performing his duty. In fact, this is a clear sign that the ANC is totally opposed to transparency and accountability. It was very interesting to listen to their argument where they say just because the minister in question will be in the presidency, so there is no need for establishing this committee. That is nonsensical. For a very simple reason, presidency in itself does not have a portfolio committee which is responsible for the oversight. The founder of the IFP, which is the leader of the IFP in Parliament, is on record actually advocating for the fact that you can't have presidency with no accountability at all, with no committee exercising oversight over what the president does. So that on its own tells you that this whole process will be undertaken without any form of oversight. It could have been a different case if the minister was actually in under a committee or ministry where there is an already established portfolio committee. In this case, it does not exist.
Right.
So for me, I was not surprised because the very same ANC muzzled a process which was actually designed to go deeper into issues of ESCOM, where we were proposing that an ad hoc committee to investigate the allegations that were actually leveled by Mr. Director. They defeated that through their majority, which shows that there is so much into ESCOM that they don't want the public to know.
And just then, on what you're saying, the calls for more oversight, A, over the presidency, and B, over this new ministry. If there aren't mechanisms put in place or committees, but be it a portfolio committee, an ad hoc committee established to perform that role, to fulfill that role, what would be the cost to the country and good governance?
No one will ever know. It's for that reason that we say such a committee must be established. You will remember, Timbo, that just recently, the Minister of Finance wanted to exempt ESCOM from any form of accountability. If it was not for the opposing parties and responsible citizens of this country who exerted so much pressure to the minister, and as a result decided to actually suspend that decision, they were going to go on and completely exempt ESCOM in any form of accountability, so that we don't know zero of what is happening there. So it's very clear as to what the intentions of the ruling party are, is that they don't want to be transparent, they want to account, they want to continue to embezzle funds which are meant to assist people of South Africa in a form that no one in the country will ever know what is happening. Even if this is like a project, for any project, you put mechanisms in place for checks and balances. You don't just have a project, even if it's for a week. You can't say no to accountability and transparency at all.
And what will it take to get there? Because based on the current makeup of the National Assembly, the ANC has the numbers on its side. So what are the prospects of this oversight mechanism ever seeing the light of day?
It's very obvious that it will never see light of the day. As we have seen with the Palapala, as we have seen again with what I've just mentioned now, the ad hoc committee investigating to ESCOM. the ANC is using its majority to defeat democracy. In fact, there is only one thing that we should be saying, and that people of this country must do. Because sometimes we become so complicated and so technical that we don't even make our people to understand. The ANC has abandoned its cause. It has betrayed people of this country. Now it has a new tendency and attitude which says, we don't care what you say. As much as you want us to account to you, we are not going to do that. We are going to use our majority to suppress democracy. And I'm saying this because in my introductory remarks when I was debating, all of us agree that our very same constitution actually suggests that transparency and accountability are the core principles of our democracy, the very same core principles that the ANC is now undermining. So I think this gives our people enough chance to actually take the right decision when the time is ripe next year to just remove the ANC from power. They are too arrogant.
And how would oversight over the electricity ministry work when you consider that the powers of the minister and the functions are themselves seemingly still being ironed out on the daily, basically a work in progress? So what use or how effective would oversight be until all of that has been put in black and white and we're all on the same page?
Obviously, we're going to do the first things first. Establishing a committee was not in any way a problem because they were going to iron out those roles and responsibilities, after which then the committee becomes effective in terms of making sure that they monitor that. And if you can look at the whole process, the things that were supposed to be done first, because a minister here was appointed without any term of reference or whatsoever, as you are saying that they are still busy doing that, meaning that this was a rush job. But that is not a problem if we are to say that it's fine, you proceed with your own process in terms of putting into place what this minister will do and everything like that. But an ad hoc committee now must be in place to monitor on a daily basis if the minister in question does perform his duties according to the T. Because you must also remember that when I was also debating, I made a very important point to say all these checks and balance mechanisms have been rendered useless by the same ANC. They are merely like a tick box exercise. You've got portfolio committees which actually will oversight over government departments. They will make recommendations, and those recommendations will be as good as they are in the paper. They will never be implemented. But that was not suggesting that there is no need for this committee, especially on matters of ESCOM, where we know now for a fact as to what has happened. You can't let an entity run on its own without anyone knowing what is happening when and how.
Outside of Parliament, I wonder if the opposition's hands are completely tied as far as trying to make this happen. What else can you do to force this to happen?
We will continue to actually play our role as the opposition outside Parliament because we are not actually muzzled in terms of trying on our own now, using our own research teams to try and monitor things and try to put questions through the parliamentary process as to what is happening on those matters that we feel we are not clear about. So those mechanisms are still there, but they are not as effective as a portfolio committee or an ad hoc committee that will be responsible for just making sure that it monitors everything. We'll be relying more on what we actually get from different sources as opposed to as Parliament, where the committee will have powers to actually summon anyone it feels should come and account.
Inkosi Mzamo, Buthelezi, thank you so much for your time, sir, from the IFP.